I'll tell you a true life story of scam. How one phone call unleashed a chain of events that no one saw coming. Take a listen. On March 25th, 2024, 83-year-old William Brock, also known as Bill, was in his home in Ohio when his phone rang. The caller introduced himself as Joe. Joe claimed to be an attorney representing Bill's grandson, Matt. Joe explained that Matt had been involved in a serious accident, that while he was driving his semi-truck, he had struck down a pregnant woman. And because of the incident, he had been arrested and was now sitting in jail. Joe also told Bill that Bill had been set at $24,000 and asked that Bill send the money to secure Matt's release. Bill was very alarmed by the news, but something about the call did not quite sit right with him. So he trusted his instincts and he hung up. But the caller was not done. A few moments later, he called back. This time, he was calm, he was persistent, and he was very convincing. And to prove his story, he offered to put Matt, that's Bill's grandson, on the phone. So Matt came on the line. Bill later said that the voice he spoke to sounded nervous and shaken up. But considering the situation that his grandson had been in an accident, he was arrested and currently in jail, he could understand why the voice would be shaking. And the voice seemed very believable, so he believed it was really his grandson. And to offer another layer of credibility, Joe also put another person on this call. And this other man introduced himself as the judge assigned to Matt's case. See, at this point, I have questions. Why is a judge assigned to a case calling the defendant's family directly for bail money? Isn't this just so wrong and unethical? That right there should have been the red flag and ended it all. But I digress. Well, back to the story. The judge then told Bill that he was about to go for his vacation, and if Bill did not come up with the bail money, Matt will have to remain in jail till after his vacation. At that point, Bill's suspicion started creeping back in. Something about the situation just didn't feel right to him. So he asked the judge a question. What is my grandson's full name? And there was a brief pause on the line. There was a hesitation, and then click. The call dropped. About 10 to 15 minutes go by. Now, during that time, Bill tried to reach Matt's grandmother, Matt's father, even Matt himself, but he couldn't get through to any of them. Then, the phone rang again and Joe was back on the line. This time, he said he had good news. The bail money had been reduced from $24,000 down to $12,000. Joe then told Bill to put the cash in a manila envelope and bring it to the courthouse within 30 minutes. He told Bill that when he arrives at the courthouse, he should hand the money over to a woman who will be waiting in a black Honda. According to Joe, the woman would then take the cash into the courthouse and clear the bond. And I wonder why Bill would not be able to go into the courthouse himself to clear the bond. But again, I digress. Well, Bill told Joe that he would not be able to make it to the courthouse in 30 minutes. And Joe immediately pivoted. He told Bill not to worry. We'll send someone to your house to pick up the money. By now, Bill had grown very uneasy, so he asked to speak to his grandson again. And they put Matt back on the line. Bill then decided to test him. He asked him two questions. What is your full name and what kind of truck were you driving? Now, there was another hesitation. Then Matt answered, a Ford 150 or maybe 350. Immediately, Bill knew something was definitely wrong. His grandson did not drive a Ford truck. At that moment, Bill realized that the person on the phone was not Matt, and he told the caller exactly that. Whoever you are not my grandson. And that's when the tone of the call changed completely. The persuasion disappeared. The callers became aggressive. They told Bill that they had his address and they demanded that he withdraw cash and give it to the driver who will be arriving his home shortly. And they warned him that when they call the driver again, he better make sure that she has the money with her. And at that point, Bill dropped the call, but fear and anger began to take over. See, emotion has a way of whispering things that logic would never. And so as Bill waited, anger and anxiety started overriding his common sense. But see, the person on the way to his house was not a criminal. The driver was a woman named Loletha Hall. She was a 61-year-old Uber driver. She had no connection to the scammers. She was not involved in the scheme, and she had no idea about the conversation that had taken place. Loletha had simply accepted what she believed was a routine package pickup through Uber. She had no idea that she was about to drive straight into someone else's nightmare. When Loletha arrived at the address, she pulled into Bill's driveway. Now, Bill believed that she was a part of the scam. However, instead of staying inside his house and calling 911, Bill grabbed his gun and went outside. When Letha saw an armed man approaching her, she tried to turn around back to her vehicle and drive away. She was unarmed. She even attempted to call 911, but Bill would not let her go.
The Uber driver, Loletha Hall, was frantically trying to explain that she was there to pick up a package, but Brock shot her a total of 6 times, killing her.
Then, gunshots rang out. Bill fired multiple shots at Letha, who was just trying to leave this gun-wielding man's presence. After the shooting, Bill called 911 himself. He told dispatchers he believed he had stopped a robbery. Letha was rushed to the hospital, but sadly, she did not survive. And what began as a scam phone call ended with the demise of an innocent woman. Bill was arrested. He later said he believed his life and his family's lives were in danger. Well, prosecutors told a very different story. They argued that Letha posed no threat to him. They said Bill had multiple opportunities to stay indoors, call the police, and remain safe, but instead he chose violence. He chose to confront her, and the entire encounter had been captured on Letha's dashcam. The jury watched the footage and listened to the phone calls, and in January 2026, after less than 2 hours of deliberation, they returned their verdict: guilty. Guilty of murder, felonious assault, and kidnapping. Bill's bond was immediately revoked and he was taken into custody to await sentencing. And on February 2nd, 2026, he was sentenced to 21 years to life in prison.
Defendant's indefinite prison term is 21 years to life in prison.
This case is just so tragic on many levels. One family buried a devoted mother and grandmother, and another family watched their elderly relative go from scam victim to convicted felon. Meanwhile, the scammers, well, they're still out there in the wind and they remain faceless voices on the line. And this case is a haunting reminder of how scams don't just steal money. They steal judgment, they weaponize fear, and sometimes they cost lives. What do you all think about this case? Was this a tragic overreaction or a preventable crime? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.